welcome here in our studio in Serekunda. This is Star TV News and I am Manager Fadera. In the headlines tonight, COVID-19 boosts a pharmaceutical enterprise as Gambia confirmed first case on Tuesday. Flight cancellations take center stage as COVID-19 surfaced in the Gambia on Tuesday. Gambia National Sport Council suspends sporting activities due to the COVID-19 virus. On the international scene, Yemen suspends flights, closed schools amid coronavirus fears. British coronavirus hit cruise ship docks in Cuba. Trump invokes act to marshal private sector against virus. Well, those were the headlines, and now the news in details. Since Gambia confirmed its first coronavirus case on Tuesday, pharmacies and other drugstores has recorded immense sales on hand sanitizers, gloves and face masks recommended by the World Health Organization for ways to prevent the virus. Jacqueline Colley was out on the street and she now reports.
The general manager of Stop Step Pharmacy, Mr. Mahawanjai, said the selling of the hand sanitizer has boomed and the issue is now with its supplier.
Population will not accept that. So what I do is I had to bring a cheaper one, which is the 60 mils, which is quite cheaper than the one that I was selling initially, and people have been happily buying it, and it is quite cheap for them.
He added that his pharmacy is selling a container of the sanitizer for $125 and advised people to be cautious with the kind of hand sanitizer they buy because the one that kills the virus should contain 60% of alcohol in it.
That we all need to know about hand sanitizers. We've seen a lot of them, but it's not all that can do the work. At least the hand sanitizer that will kill the virus has to contain at least 60% alcohol, which is something that I put in front of everything because I have to make sure this thing that I'm selling to the people that are coming to buy is able to fight against the virus that everybody is scared of.
Yahya Sora of City Pharmacy said the sanitizer they have is selling very well, and for him, the people are ready to safeguard themselves against the virus. He added that they also sell gloves at $10 per pair and a sanitizer at $100, and advised his fellow comrades that sell these products to not increase the prices because they will be making it hard for the less privileged to access the products, but rather sell it at the fixed price.
So if something like an issue or an outbreak like this happens, the Gambians should take responsibility not to increase prices. We should all be at least be helpful, be ready to at least cooperate with the people that are affected, not to increase the price. The price we are selling before, that's the price we still maintain to sell it.
Masamba Menga, a spare parts vendor who is now involved in the selling of nose masks and gloves, said he is doing it to help the prevention of the virus because he is Gambian and Gambians are known for helping each other. The health minister on Tuesday announced the first case of coronavirus in the Gambia, and the infected person is in her 20s. She came through the Banjul International Airport from UK and surrendered herself at the Medical Research Council where she was tested and results came positive. Jacqueline Colley, reporting for Star TV News.
The outbreak of the coronavirus has virtually affected all parts of the world. However, a day after the Gambia's Minister of Health reported about a registered case, dozens of Gambians and non-Gambian alike stormed the Brussels airline complex in Senegambia to inquire about their revealing schedules on Wednesday. Modo Baji was at Brussels Airlines main office and now he reports.
After a televised report on the state television regarding a listed case on the pandemic COVID-19, a strong wind of fear blows in the minds of many, especially holidaymakers. Moreover, the eruption of the coronavirus has led to the closure of international borders, particularly in the Western countries, as part of their measures to mitigate the spread of the virus. A Gambian-based German, Yankuba Sise, stressed on the cancellation of this flight.
The information we have about this coronavirus, that's why some people want to go back. They come for holidays, but their holidays is not ended. But because of this coronavirus, they want to go back. But still, we are just struggling to get information. But still, they close. So we are here. We don't know.
How does this affect you personally?
For me personally, it affects me because I have to go to work on Monday. So, and my flight, I'm supposed to go on the 19th. So if I don't go, it will affect me. So that's why I just come here and have information so that I can go back.
Mr. Cisse indicated that he came to confirm about the cancellation of the flight, which he consumed from friends. A Denmark Gambian-based Usman Jabi called on flight agencies to compensate them, arguing that he can stay in the Gambia without cost.
What about if you come for a holiday for a week, 2 weeks or a month, and then you're out of cash? Then how are you going to pick up for 1 month? Yeah, so I think if they can compensate us, let us stay for 1 month more. It's not in their hands, but it's their responsibility also.
So would it affect you in the sense at the workplace where you're working?
I should start work on the 16th of April in Copenhagen. I work on the ship. But they are also canceled. They said they will notify me before the notice. So at least I cannot pay. I don't know if I'm here. But I really don't know. I cross my fingers.
Usman Jabi added that people should have prepared since the virus was reported in China in order to put in place concrete measures to combat the virus. However, the main office doors are locked down, but posters containing little information on flights are pasted for travelers to gain knowledge about the agency's new policies. The Brussels airline authorities were consulted for comment, but they declined. Reporting for Star TV, I am Modu Elbaji.
The National Sport Council of the Gambia earlier on Wednesday released a press release suspending all sport activities to adhere with the president suspending public gathering to avoid spreading the coronavirus. Omar Job reports.
The Sport Council, in consultation with the Minister of Youth and Sport, encouraged members of the sport fraternity to adhere to the preventive measures as recommended by the Minister of Health and World Health Organization. Speaking to Star TV before the press release, Mahmoud Lamin Jawla, the Deputy Director of the National Sport Council, said sport is one of the largest activities that attracts people in the country and beyond. Therefore, all individuals within the sport fraternity should adhere to the pronouncement of the President.
When you look at sports, it is, one of the most, activities that, attracts the largest number of people in the country here and everywhere in the world. So having known that, we have also taken this measure that all, sporting activities across the country, the regional committees, district committees down to the village, the national sports associations, football, basketball, volleyball, all the disciplines should cease all their activities with immediate effect. The press release is already done, and very soon it will be published, and the entire public will be aware of it. And
Mr. Jawla noted the negative impacts on the sport programming as it will delay some of the scheduled activities in the calendar year.
To affect the country in terms of sports, it has negative impacts because already these are programs, or the leagues I would call it, the championships are programs that are already part of the 2020-21 activities for all the national associations and even sports organizations in the country. So you will see to it that the cancellation of their activities will have an impact on their future programs, meaning then we'll have programs that will have to overlap. And in this, they will have to work very hard to ensure that they, put ways and means, the way forward to ensure that the program is scheduled, and then they will have to sacrifice some of the activities which are also very, very important, because all activities in their annual programs are all of great importance.
Mr. Ibufai, the second vice president of the Gambia Football Federation, said the coronavirus is a global concern and football is one of the biggest followed sport disciplines in the country, and it is also affected by suspension of public gathering.
Football is part of public gathering, so obviously all the national leagues will be postponed for 21 days, as highlighted by the president, and also from the expected press release from the Ministry of Youth and Sports to suspend all sporting activity. So football also, as part of the community, will be suspended, and we ensure that the health of our players and the public at large is taken care of.
Mr. Fai further added the negative impact the virus will cause to football in the country and beyond.
It will disturb all aspects of football, even the world economy, it will disturb it. So if the world economy have a challenge, football will have a challenge. It will disturb club owners who will have to look at whether their clubs will continue training and so on and so forth. So, it has a very big impact that it cannot be measured now, but it's going to be very, very difficult to now say this is the impact that it has. All of us are looking at the challenges that we are going to face, both as a footballing country and also as a country. As the Minister of Finance have said, that if this situation passes, it will cost the country over 1 billion, which is a lot, which will have an immense impact, negative impact in our lives.
The wake-up call came after the president pronouncement of the suspending public gathering on the state TV, which was further followed by the health minister confirming a case in the country. For Star TV News, I am Omar Job.
The Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission have suspended its hearings since the first case of coronavirus has been confirmed in the Gambia by the Minister of Health, Dr. Amadou Samate. The chairman of the commission, Mr. Lamin Cisse, said they are following the advice of the health personnel and WHO. Cisse made this comment at the TRRC complex yesterday. Bintakoli sends in this report.
Following the directives from the President of the Gambia regarding the COVID-19 case registered in the Gambia on the 17th March 2020, that all public hearing and gatherings should be suspended for 21 days in order to monitor the situation in the country. TRRC have also taken the lead in suspending all their public hearings and activities with effect from Wednesday 18 March 2020 to the first week of June 2020. According to Cisse, the reason behind their long-term break is because the end of the 21-day suspension coincides with the beginning of the Commission's Ramadan break, and public hearing will not resume till the end of Ramadan, which might fall in early June, and that all activities might go back to normal if it is safe to operate. The information further disclosed that the Commission Secretariat will also be closed and all the staffs may not go to office for any work-related issue, but they are highly advised to work from home before the end of the 3-week suspension given by the government of the Gambia. Depending on how things will turn out at the end of the 21 days, during these weeks the Secretariat might resume or partially close except for essential and emergency businesses. The entire body of TRRC encourages the general public to adhere to the advices given to them by the Ministry of Health and WHO for their own safety and pray for Allah to protect the Gambia from the pandemic and the world at large. TRRC is a body set up by Act of Parliament in 2019 to look into the alleged atrocities and extrajudicial killings committed by former President Yahya Jammeh. For Star TV News, I am Bintakuli.
And now the news beyond our borders. In Yemen, a country already struggling with a 5-year war is now preparing for the battle against the coronavirus. Despite the absence of any coronavirus case in Sana'a or elsewhere in Yemen, the government has suspended flights to and from Sana'a International Airport for 2 weeks and ordered the closure of schools and colleges to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Al Jazeera's Mahmoud Al-Hattab reports from the capital, Sana'a.
This is Sana'a International Airport, once a busy hub serving much of Yemen. It has been largely closed for the past 4 years because of the conflict. Only recently were UN and other humanitarian flights allowed, but now, with the spread of coronavirus, those two have been suspended.
The country's Supreme Committee assigned for eradicating the world's growing pandemic issued a set of resolutions to stem the spread of the disease from outside Yemen. Now, all UN and humanitarian passenger flights have been suspended until further notice.
A month ago, the World Health Organization airlifted critically ill patients to Jordan. The airport's general manager told Al Jazeera only humanitarian cargo is now allowed in.
Sana'a International Airport has applied the same precautionary measures that are being carried out all over the world. Now we are assigned to only allow flights of humanitarian aid and life-saving medicines. These shipments will be kept untouched at our airport's warehouses for 24 hours before any further action is taken.
Houthis later have also ordered the closure of schools. That's despite confirmation from the WHO that Yemen doesn't have a single case of coronavirus.
The closure of the school is a precautionary measure in case the situation gets worse. Similar decision has been taken during the beginning of Saudi-led war over the spike of its airstrikes.
Some of the students we spoke to at Sana'a University are not happy about having to abandon their education before an important exam. They are already struggling because of the 5-year Saudi Emirati-led war, and there is no opportunity for distance learning.
Studies has been suspended until further notice, as we are just days away from completing our second semester.
Despite the absence of any coronavirus cases here in Sana'a or elsewhere in Yemen, prices for masks have soared and their availability has started to dwindle.
We used to buy this bucket before the pandemic by $0.6. But now, after the pandemic, the package equal $6.
The short supply of protective gear is not the only challenge for the authorities here. Testing kits for coronavirus are also scarce.
We only have 400 corona tests at the central medical labs, so we're urging international organizations to step in and provide the necessary aid that'll help us eradicate the threat of the virus in its early stages.
This internally displaced family, which is forced to live in this 3-square-meter shop, has prioritized giving the children masks. Experts warn if coronavirus cases started to emerge here, the death toll could be the highest in the world. Yemen has already struggled to contain the outbreaks of cholera, diphtheria and H1N1 flu virus that have resulted in the deaths of thousands of civilians. They say Yemenis simply cannot afford a global pandemic. Muhammad Atab, Al Jazeera, Sana'a.
A British cruise ship with 5 confirmed cases on board has docked in Cuba after it was torn away from multiple ports in the Caribbean. Cuba allowed the ship in after Barbados, the Bahamas, and the United States all refused the captain's request to come ashore. The MS Bremer has been stuck at sea for more than a week. The UK Foreign Minister thanked the Cuban government for letting passengers disembark, as many on board are British citizens. Several flights have been chartered to fly them home. Al Jazeera's Ed Augustine reports.
After more than a week adrift at sea, the British cruise ship, the Braemar, arrived into an industrial port west of the capital, Havana, on Wednesday. After a tortuous journey, the crew seemed elated to have finally landed. Passengers descended from the boat and were bussed to safety in a rescue mission executed by the Cuban and British governments.
I'm conscious that this has been a difficult and uncertain journey for the passengers and for the crew, and I'm very grateful to the Cuban government for enabling this operation to go ahead.
The Braemar had been stranded at sea for over a week and was denied authorization to dock in the Dominican Republic, the Bahamas and the US. But Cuba allowed the ship to come in, saying a sense of humanity was required to halt the pandemic.
We Cubans are proud to step up in a situation like this. We are convinced and sure that we can deal with anything that comes up, as we did with Ebola. Cuba has shown repeatedly it can deal with complicated situations and come out successfully.
But there's fear on the island that allowing the ship to dock could allow the virus to spread here. The island has registered 11 confirmed cases of people with coronavirus so far, and its first casualty, an Italian man in his 60s, has died. The cash-strapped island has so far opted to keep its borders open. The economy relies heavily on tourism and wants to keep visitors coming. But given the magnitude of the crisis, the tourist season seems certain to flop. After weeks of feeling scared and adrift, these tourists are very relieved to be heading home. From Havana, Ed Augustine for Al Jazeera.
U.S. state authorities in the Northeast say that in the absence of any leadership from the Trump administration to combat the coronavirus sweeping the country, they have had to step up to the plate. Governors in the states of Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey have shut down many schools and restaurants and banned large gatherings, but they say the federal government needs to put in place a nationwide coordinated response. Al Jazeera's Gabriel Elizondo reports from the New York.
Times Square, quiet. Its famous streets largely empty. Schools, bars, restaurants closed down in New York. On Wednesday, neighboring Pennsylvania joined New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut in taking coordinated steps. barring gatherings of over 50 people and closing most businesses. Extreme measures to control the rate of infection from a fast-spreading coronavirus.
Good morning.
The urgent, multi-state response was needed to fill the gap they say the White House isn't.
The state cannot do this on its own. We don't have the capacity. We don't have a workforce. We can't build new hospitals in 45 days. The federal government can be extremely helpful here.
If we do not act, the price will only be larger.
New Jersey's Governor Phil Murphy sent a letter to Trump asking him to deploy the military to help build tent hospitals. The public health crisis is a direct threat to our national security and the safety of our people, Murphy wrote. Earlier this week, governors urged President Donald Trump to mount a nationwide, coordinated campaign against the coronavirus pandemic. Of particular urgent concern, an acute shortage in medical supplies at hospitals throughout the country. Everything from gloves to masks to respirators. A recording of the meeting was leaked to the New York Times, and in it, Trump is overheard telling governors that he'll try his best, but that the states might be left on their own, and that each state should buy anything they can get their hands on.
An emergency response.
But public health experts say leaving it to individual states is unwise.
We don't want governors to all be fighting over the same. I think there are like a half a dozen main respirator manufacturers in the U.S. But why should we have our governors fighting? It would be better and more fair if it was at a high level and they apportion it out based on your need, for instance.
New York's governor said on Wednesday he speaks with Trump at least once a day, and both sides are now better cooperating, but that the Northeast states will continue to rely on each other as there's no longer any second to waste. Gabriel Zondo, Al Jazeera, New York.
President Donald Trump has signed into law a $100 billion relief package to combat the coronavirus pandemic spreading in the United States. It will ensure there is free testing for the virus and enough masks and ventilators, and give some workers paid sick leave. But Democrats have criticized the Trump administration for failing to act sooner, even after the president said he wanted $1 trillion for businesses and private citizens who are having financial difficulties. Al Jazeera's Mike Hanna reports from Washington, D.C.
The actual vote took longer than usual, senators entering the chamber a few at a time to ensure social distance was maintained. Within hours of the bill being passed, it was signed into law by President Trump. A total of about $100 billion earmarked for bolstering unemployment benefits, guaranteeing free testing, and providing some American workers with paid sick leave. The law allows the administration to expand production and access reserves of protective gear like masks and ventilators. The military will also deploy 2 floating hospital ships to increase hospital capacity as the coronavirus spreads to all 50 of U.S. states. The White House is urging Congress to pass more legislative packages in the days ahead, seeking a total of about $1 trillion to flood the U.S. economy with cash. The stated intention to ease the burden of big businesses, as well as provide financial relief to each citizen. Some Democrats continue to insist the overall response is still too slow.
We're behind the 8 ball on tests, and we're soon going to be behind the 8 ball on ICU beds and ventilators as more and more people get sick. The administration didn't pay attention to tests, and now we're paying the price.
Chinese virus.
In the midst of all this, President Trump is insisting on calling the coronavirus the Chinese virus, even as reporters asked whether he was being racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why.
It's a posture Trump insists is appropriate, given he sees himself as,
in a sense, a wartime president.
A president who believes he's leading the fight against what he calls America's increasingly virulent, invisible enemy. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Well, before we end the news, a recap of our main headlines. COVID-19 boasts Pharmaceutical enterprise as Gambia confirmed first case on Tuesday. Flight cancellations take center stage as COVID-19 surface in the Gambia on Tuesday. Gambia National Sport Council suspends sporting activities due to the COVID-19 virus. Yemen suspends flights, close schools amid coronavirus fears. British coronavirus hit cruise ship docks in Cuba. Trump invokes act to marshal private sector against virus. Well, that's all for this edition of the news. Please enjoy the rest of our programs and join us tomorrow for more news. Thanks for your time.